Are you on financial cruise control, just coasting along, hoping things will work out? It's easy to do. Life gets busy, bills pile up, and before you know it, years have passed without making real progress towards your financial freedom. But here's the thing, financial success doesn't happen by accident. It happens with intentionality. That's exactly what certified financial planner Melissa Cox helped you achieve in her book, Future Focused Wealth. This isn't just another complicated finance book filled with jargon. It's a straightforward, practical guide designed to help you take control of your money at your own pace. Whether you're paying off debt, starting to invest, or preparing for life's big milestones, Future Focused Wealth breaks it all down into clear, actionable steps that fit your life. No pressure, no gimmicks. Just real proven strategies that work. And here's the best part, a portion of every book sale supports financial literacy initiatives. So you're not just investing in your future, you're helping others do the same. So if you're ready to switch off autopilot, take control of your finances, and build the future you actually want, grab Future Focus Wealth today on Amazon. Just click on the link in the show notes and grab your copy today. Because financial success isn't about being rich, it's about being in control. Welcome to the Real Life Momz podcast. It is time to take a break from all our to-dos and carve out this time to focus on ourselves. I'm Lisa Foster, your host, and today I'm joined with fellow mom, author, nurse, stress relief, and self-care coach, Jenny Lytle. And we are going to talk about the importance of taking care of ourselves. So, hi, Jenny. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Lisa, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you. And I think you have an interesting background and story that kind of puts a different perspective on self care. So, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background and why this is so important to you.
Sure. So, like you said, I'm Jenny Lytle. I have been a nurse for 30 years. Most of that has been in end of life and hospice care. And so when you're dealing with people and families who are at the end of their lives facing some of the most challenging times that they'll ever go through, it kind of changes the way that you look at things a little bit. And some of that for the better and some of that maybe not so much. And that's kind of what happened with my story, was a little of both of those things, because my husband is 15 years older than I am. We have six boys together. And so when we got together, I just kind of became instant mom at 21 to four boys. And the oldest one is 9 years younger than me. So that was interesting. And I was basically raised as an only child. I have a half brother who's wonderful, but we didn't live together. So we didn't have that normal sibling rivalry and all of that. It was me and my mom growing up. And so going from that to a lot of kids, and then we had two more, it was a challenge. I mean, motherhood is not for the faint of heart, for sure. And
Yeah.
I I struggled. I think like a lot of moms, I felt like I was always failing in some way, and I wasn't sure if that was normal or if that was just because I was really failing. And so when I did start working full time outside of the home in hospice, I was good at it. And people told me how much they appreciated me. And we don't always get that as moms, you know? Our kids don't tell us how great we are all the time. And that kind of led to some imbalance. And I found a lot of my identity in my work. And that ended up leading to burnout years later. And that's what led me to where I am today. So that's the semi-condensed version of that.
First of all, six boys. Do we want to just stop there? Because Jesus. And so I can see how you
Mhm.
can lose yourself for sure in the mix. And I'm right now, my daughter's off in college and I'm just home with my husband and my son. And the boy energy alone there is like, oh my gosh, I need something else,
Mhm.
besides that. So kudos for you. Good job that you're surviving and now thriving because that is a lot.
Yes, thank you.
But yeah, it's so nice to hear good job. And sometimes we do have to find it elsewhere
Mhm.
outside of the home. So
Mhm.
so you had an upfront seat to end of life, right? And here's the
Mhm.
deal. Like people then look back and say, okay, here's what's really important in life, right?
Mhm.
Not all the stupid stuff that we get caught up in that we think are important but aren't. So,
Mhm.
what did you learn from that little piece? What are the key things that kept repeating from people that you've encountered?
Well, it's funny because a lot of it is the fact that relationships are so important. Lots of people wish they would have worked less, prioritized family and friends more, and also less fear about what people think about what they're doing. I think we let fear get in our way so many times. We worry about what others are thinking about our choices, about different decisions that we make, things that maybe from the outside look like they're bad decisions, but we have to do what's right for us. And sometimes we don't know exactly what it is, and sometimes we're kind of going with our gut, and that's kind of what I've done with some of what I'm doing now. And it has been a long road because it's hard to go against the grain sometimes when you've been brought up to you go to school, you get a degree, you get a job, you do all of these things and you do them in this particular order. And I don't come from a family really of entrepreneurs. My family and especially my husband's family are more the go, you work, you stay at a particular place, and that's changing a lot over the years, but still there is a bit of a comfort in that. I think there's stability as much as there's stability in anything right now. And so it's kind of looking at that and figuring out, okay, regardless of what other people are doing or think I should be doing, what is it that I really feel like I'm supposed to do? And being willing to go against the grain. And then realizing that most people that were worried about what they're thinking about us, they're not thinking about us at all. They're thinking about what other people are thinking about them.
Totally. It's like that thing where you meet somebody and you say your name, you're like, "Hi, I'm Lisa." And then they say their name, but you can't remember their name because you were too worried about your own name to begin with. Like,
Right.
how many people can't remember a
Exactly.
name here, right?
Right.
Same thing,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. And I do think that is one of the great things about getting older. Like, it's not that I care about people less, it's just I care less about what people think about me because I found that when I'm just completely myself, then there's going to be people who are completely repelled and that's okay, and then there's going to be people that are my kind of people that are going to be like, okay, well, she's kind of a mess, but she's real. And those are my people. And I used to want everybody to like me. And there's still a part of me that I wish everybody did, but I don't like everybody. I can
Yeah.
get along with everybody for short periods at least, but that doesn't mean that I really want to be like close with everybody. So why would I think that they do of me? So
Exactly.
back to your original question, a lot of it is learning, wishing that they would have listened to their own intuition more, and that kind of plays into what I do and what I teach now too is pay attention to your body, pay attention to your gut, sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively, but there's so many times when we know things, and especially as women we can ignore that intuition, that ick meter that we have. It's there for a reason. And being able to tune into that and trust ourselves even if we don't know why. You don't have to have a concrete reason for just thinking, okay, you know what, I feel like I'm just supposed to say no to that. And being able to trust that and not get yourself into a bad situation where later you think, I kind of knew something felt a little off.
Yeah, it's always looking back, right? But I
Right.
think that trust piece is the biggest thing. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, just trusting that gut reaction. And I always
Mm-hmm.
say the body doesn't lie, right? So it's
Right.
like if it's giving you an icky feeling, the icky
Right.
meter, I love that. Then like why would that lie to you? Why would we be making up that? Right.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, so I think that trust is huge. And then going back to that no, like I should just say no to this situation, but I think
Hmm.
we could just leave it at no too. Like,
Right.
no, That's it. Like, I don't
Right.
have to have a reason why to feel like I'm
Right.
going to be judged or even make up something. It's just like,
Right.
nah, I'm not going to do that. Thanks so much.
Right.
Bye-bye.
And and
Yeah.
sometimes it's no, like I don't know why. I just feel like I'm supposed to say no. Sometimes it's no, I know exactly why,
Yeah.
but I don't want to be rude and tell you why,
Yeah.
because I really
Yeah.
don't like you. I don't want to spend that much time with you. I agree. Yes, we can just say no. But there's a whole lot of women who are not comfortable saying
Or,
no.
or.
And what I encourage those women to do, those women, it's me too, is to block out time in your calendar. That is because that was one of the things, that was one of the areas where I really got myself into a big old bout with burnout, was whenever something needed done, a lot of other people had better boundaries than I did. And so they would just say, I can't. And I was like, well, well, she's got a ball game and she's got this going on. And just saying that, like, I got 6 kids at home. That wasn't enough. I mean, I didn't have something specific. And my husband was very helpful, which was great. But it also meant that I knew that he'd take care of the kids. It's not like they were going to be neglected if I was neglecting them. So I really don't have a particular reason why I can't do it. So I'll just do it because somebody's got to do it. And so it was frequently me because everybody else had the good sense to say no. So now what I like to do is I have time that I have blocked in my calendar and it's called blocked, fancy name, so that if somebody says, hey, can you do whatever, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm booked up. And I am because I'm booked up with not being booked up. So sorry for the people who listen and who know me and are like, I wonder if she's just doing that to me. Maybe.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a way to remind myself, like, I need that margin. Now, if you're somebody I really want to hang with, then of course I can move my block time. But otherwise, like, no, it reminds me that I don't need to have every moment scheduled. And it keeps my calendar where people are able to schedule with me, it keeps that blocked out as well. So that's one of the things that I like to do. And I encourage people who, hey, if you're just really struggling with that saying no stuff, schedule some time for yourself or just block out some time so that you don't feel like, well, I've got all this free time. I might as well. You need to have, it's okay to have some free time, at least putting some space in there. Because I also have the problem of I want to do everything. Whenever I hear something, I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. Of course I want to do it. And so if I say, you know what, let me check my schedule and get back to you when I am able to distance myself from the heat of the moment, then I can respond the next day and be like, okay, yes, that sounds fun, but really, hey, is it going to be fun? Because some things that sound fun, when I really think about them, I'm like, no, that does sound fun, but not for me. And or I realize like I've got too much going on. I that's really not a good use of my yes. So then I can say no a little bit easier.
Now, I've heard you mention burnout a few times.
Yes.
So, I mean, as a nurse, like, honestly, I
Hmm.
think of like that's the first thing I think about is any
Right.
healthcare field. It's like, as
Right.
I'm in the healthcare
Absolutely.
field too,
Yes.
it's like,
Yes.
wow, burnout, there you go.
Right.
Because that's a big thing, like,
Hmm.
if by taking care of ourselves, right,
Hmm.
it's important so that we don't burn out. So,
Right.
can you talk a little bit about burnout and what's that been for you?
Yes. So it's just there's different stages of burnout, but basically it's when you're giving, 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 and you're not replenishing yourself. So it's that whole, you can't pour from an empty cup, but you keep trying and you keep trying, and eventually you find that you're grouchy. You're not feeling very well. Your relationships are suffering. It doesn't matter what you do at work. It feels like it's never enough. You keep trying to prove yourself. You're trying to be perfect. And it's just that sense of no matter how hard I work, it's never good enough. I can't get caught up and I can't get rid of those feelings of overwhelm and just despair. When it's left untreated, then that's something that really can get worse and make it where you really can't function well at work. And especially if you're somebody who's caring for people like nurses, like other people in healthcare, like moms, like so many of us, when you're trying to care for others, but you have no reserve, you can't do very much for very long and do it well. And it bleeds over into every area of your life. And that's why I really encourage women to figure out little ways that you can take care of yourself on a regular basis. I don't approach self care as something that's spa days and bubble baths and vacations, although they're wonderful and, fit those in whenever you can. But it's so much smaller than that and simpler than that. But I also believe that it really needs to be personalized in order to be effective for each of us. Because the things that really rejuvenate me and bring me peace and keep me in a place of groundedness and feeling like I'm really able to show up as my best self, those can be completely different than the things that do that for you. But we don't often take the time to figure that out because we're too busy taking care of everybody else.
You got to get quiet to actually
Uh-huh,
figure that out.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that can be a challenge.
Especially with 6 boys. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Now you created a method
Yeah.
called Becoming Method.
hmm
It's to help manage stress. So I'm assuming that helps with burnout as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what is it?
When I first created my company, I knew that I wanted it to focus on our individuality. And so I ended up calling it Becoming Your Best with Jenny Lytle RN. Well, I think that the becoming part is because we're always in process. We're always growing, we're always evolving, and we're never going to reach that perfection. But it's not about that. It's about the growth. It's about the things that happen to us on the journey. And it's about becoming your best, not not her best, but whatever that looks like to us as individuals. And so I went on a long journey myself that took a lot of time and money and effort and zigzags to get to where I am now. And I'm still a work in progress and I always will be. But when I realized, okay, so instead of doing, this thing over here and then zipping over here and doing all these separate things and parts and different kinds of reflection and stuff, I wanted it to be something that was simpler, smoother, more logical progression for other people. As a nurse, we use the nursing process to that's kind of how we, do everything with our patients. So it's assess, diagnose, plan, implement, and evaluate. And so that's the format. That's the step-by-step process that we use. And so I took that and made it becoming and have each of those letters pertain to a certain thing. So, the B is for baseline. So, where are you now? Because a lot of times we don't stop to think of that. And, if you get in a car, if you're getting ready to go on vacation, you're going out west, well, you need to be able to put something more than out west into the GPS. You need to know, like, where am I at and where do I want to go? And then looking at the individual parts of our lives, of our makeup. So, the E is for excitement. What are the things that you love to do? What gets you excited? What fires you up? Because we don't always stop to think about that. We know the things that get our kids excited, but what is it that I like to do? And that may be different than it was before I had kids, or it may be like, hey, you know what? There's some of those things that I probably would still like to do, but I haven't thought about them in 10 years or 15 years. So each part is a step by step kind of activity to be able to look at those particular areas, and it's not anything that has to take a long time. It's just it kind of builds on each other, and it's looking at our individual needs and where we are in our life. And so getting down to, what do you want your life to look like? What are some things that would make it feel more meaningful? And then where are those gaps? What is it that you need to do that? And then how do you put that plan into place? Again, it's an 8-step process, but it's pretty quick when you get going on it. And then it's just a matter of figuring out little ways to implement that. And and by little, I'm talking, 5, 10 minutes at a time, sometimes less than that, to to just start incorporating little things for you into your days.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and I like just even the baseline. I think that's huge. Like, where are we
hmm
going? Like, half the time, I don't know where I'm going. I'm just
Right.
like, I'm going where you tell me to go. It's
Yeah.
just like these steps that we're just walking through, just not even thinking, but like
Mhm.
having more purposeful intention on what am I doing? Where am I going? I love that. So I know you have some easy, even 5-minute little actionable tools that people can start using to
Hmm.
help implement some self care.
Hmm.
Can you share some of those with us?
Yes, absolutely. So the first one is the most basic, but also probably the most important, and that's breathing. Because yes, we all do it, but we don't necessarily do it well. We don't use it to really be able to energize us or relax us. And breathing is like our breath is a tool that can be used for things. And I'm just starting to dig into breath work a little bit because you think okay it's breathing, but there are so many different ways of breathing and that do different things, but overall just doing some deep breaths instead of that shallow breathing from right here in our chest that we do on a regular basis where we're catching our breath, but instead just slowing down, just sitting for a minute. And I encourage especially women who are busy, whether they be moms. And I know moms, you don't always get to go to the bathroom on your own, but if those rare occasions that you do get to go on your own, you can stay in there an extra minute, unless you have really little ones that maybe you can't. But for people who are at work or whatever and think, I don't have a lot of time for this, I've got a really busy job. Like when you're in the bathroom, stay in there an extra minute or two. Like really, it can feel like a long time, but nobody's going to miss you that bad in those two
Yeah.
minutes. And if they do, then you really, really need to be in there breathing. But just slow down while you're in there. Close your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, just breathe all the way into your belly, in through your nose, and then just let it out, just sigh it out and do that a few times. And it can feel so simple. Like the things that I encourage are deceptively simple. So it can be easy to be like, oh, I know that. Or what's that going to do? Okay, taking a couple deep breaths isn't going to fix my life. But done over time, it really does make a difference. And I get it. These are a lot of this is stuff that I've known for years too. Knowing and practicing are two very different things. I
Yeah.
mean, we all know that getting a good amount of sleep is good for us. Do we do it? Flossing once or twice a day is good for us. Do we all do it every day? I mean, so knowing and doing are two
Yeah.
incredibly different things.
And I have to say, breathing, when I ask people on the podcast, moms that come on and talk about self care and think, breathing is always the one that comes up every
Mm-hmm.
single time. They might have a different technique or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but every time, even someone I just interviewed a few episodes ago, it was for fitness. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like thinking, like, oh, what's one exercise? And I thought she was going to give us like, squats or something, right?
Right, right.
Breathing. And I was like,
Yes.
not didn't even think about that, right?
Yes.
So it is so important
Mm-hmm.
that breathing is. And back in my PT days, we would take classes, but there's one called if you can't breathe, you can't function. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
here you are working on all the components of walking and movement and whatever, but if you don't have breath, you're not going to do any of that. So
Absolutely.
going back to, yeah, so simple. And most things that are good for us and that we need are not these crazy
Right.
things
Yeah.
anyway. And the most and things that we're actually going to do are things that would be really easy. So yeah,
Right.
let's not knock breathing. I think that is a huge one.
And if you feel like it's not that important, hold your breath for a little bit. So breathing is where I always start. It sounds, lots of other people do too. But gratitude is another huge one because it's not like all Pollyanna, oh, I'm so glad for my health and I'm glad, I mean, yes, it's great to be grateful for those things. But it's also like, okay, that's kind of generic. Dig a little deeper. I'm really grateful that it's not frigid here anymore. I'm in Indiana. It's 61 degrees. It's 7:30 at night and I still see some sunish. I today I had somebody cancel. I had somebody that forgot about our appointment and she canceled. Okay, well, you know what? I'm a little bit grateful for that because my day was jam-packed. And then I met somebody new today that we really aligned and I thought, you know what? Like that's something to be grateful for too. And it's so easy to let the not so great things take up so much of our attention. And we're programmed that way. Like biologically, we're programmed to look for the dangers, to look for the bad things. And so we have to be intentional about the good things, about looking for those. And as we look for the things that we're grateful for, we look for the things that are going well, then we'll start to look for those more. But so that's another big area to start in. And again, it's super simple. You can write it down if you want to, or you can just stop and think, you know what? Hey, this, and this were great things that happened today.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that even ongoing. What I really am finding that I'm craving is exactly what you said, is almost doing it throughout the day. Like almost
Mhm,
taking a moment and saying, "Okay, I just met you right now, and this
mhm,
is just very exciting conversation. I feel like we're connecting and I love that. That feels good to me. This is something that's
mhm.
bringing me joy, right?"
Yep.
And so I'm like grateful in this moment. And so I
Mhm,
think that's something that personally I need to add throughout the day, because what happens to me, I'm like, oh, I want this and I'm hoping for that and doing this. And then if I just look at the things I'm grateful for, it's like I already have that. I just didn't even know it because I was
right.
too distracted by all the
Right.
other stuff that I didn't
Mhm,
want. Right.
mhm.
So
Right.
I think that's important to do, and not just one and done. It doesn't have to be just a one and done. It could be throughout the day.
Right. It doesn't have to be a big process. You don't
Mhm.
have to have it in the perfect journal, and you don't have to make sure that you're getting it all written down. And yes, it's those little things like that where we can really be grateful for the moments that we're in and focus a little bit more on those.
Yeah.
So, one of my favorites is a wins file. And so that is, we keep track of all the things that we do wrong. We keep that little mental list going, and we bring those back up to ourselves. And well, remember when you did that before? But we don't always think about all the things that we did well. And so maybe it's something at work. If you're somebody that works outside the home and you get this attaboy kind of thing, or a certificate or something like that, then yes, those kind of things definitely go in there. But also maybe a card of encouragement that you get from somebody, or a time when you know that what you did was something that was difficult and you pushed through. Maybe you were scared and you pushed through that and did something. Maybe you were feeling really frustrated and you didn't blow up on someone the way that maybe sometimes you would. So keeping track of those kind of little things, the things that your kids say to you, those super sweet things that you think you're going to remember and then you don't necessarily, having those kind of things just easily accessible. I have a paper file, and then I also have a digital file where, I mean, it's just a Google folder, and I just, throw things in there. If somebody says something nice to me, or if I get a good review, I'll just like copy and paste it and throw it in there, because there's those days when we all really struggle and we feel like we're failing at everything, and we need somebody to pick us up. And we don't all have somebody to that's going to pick us up. And having that where you can just go to it and be like, okay, you know what? Hey, I am kind of awesome. And then and then you can just move on with your day with that different energy, because when we feel good, we show up differently than when we're feeling beat down.
It's like we have to show up really strong for all the hard stuff, but
Hmm.
that other stuff, it's like, yeah, we can show up there too. Yeah.
Right.
And I do think, once again, going back to the full circle here about when we're doing self-care, a lot of times we're worried about what other people think. Like, oh, they're
Yes.
taking too much time for themselves, or oh,
Right.
they're just showing off their stuff, or oh, right.
Right.
But here's the deal, that's just a story I made up. Nobody cares. Nobody
Right.
actually cares, right?
Right. Like you said, no, they're not paying any attention to you. They're busy thinking about what they're going to say when they have a chance to talk.
Exactly. So,
Yes.
yeah, so
Yes.
take care of yourself, right?
Mhm.
Like take care of yourself in any way it sounds like that feels good to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's really taken that time to figure out, like, what is it that I need? And that's one of the things when I get incredibly overwhelmed, when my head is just swirling all over the place and I'm like, I don't even know where to start. Then I stop and I take a couple deep breaths and I think, like, what is it that I really need most right now? And if I'm in a really bad headspace and I'm like, I don't know, I need
Yeah,
I
that
need to go
happens.
back to sleep. I need 12 more hands, you know. But usually when we really settle into that and just breathe and just kind of sit there until it pops up, it doesn't take that long and it's like, well, I need to do this thing. I need to address this thing. I need to take a nap. I need to I need to go sit in the shower for a few minutes. It's simple stuff so much of the time.
Mhm.
But we we should on ourselves too much, all the things that we should be doing, and instead just think about like what is it that what is really going to help me feel better? What is going to really nourish my spirit and help me to show up better for the people that I do care so much about?
Yeah.
As women, we aren't always great at being nice to ourselves, at celebrating the little things like we talked about. And I think that's if there's a should out there, I feel like that's one of the things we should be doing that
Yeah.
we're not doing is get better about celebrating the little progresses, the little things instead of I just went for a mile walk. I didn't really do that much, or I just was, doing that for 10 minutes, or it's all those little justs where we minimize that. And think about what would you say to your kids or what would you say to your best friend? Especially if you're somebody that like you've been struggling and maybe, it's hard to just get out of bed and get dressed every day. So if that's the case, then anything above and beyond that definitely needs to be celebrated and celebrate the fact that you did get up and get out of bed. And really not like, well, hey, at least you did that. No. Like sometimes that really is where we're at that point and that part is a struggle and celebrating it and just feeling good about it and thinking about how you would treat somebody that you love can start to make those little subtle shifts that add up to bigger things over time.
Mhm. Yeah. All right. We're all going to celebrate our wins.
Yes.
But what is one thing you want moms to do right after getting off this podcast?
I want them to take 2 minutes to think about three things that they really enjoy doing, things that really fill their cup, and then figure out when to do at least one of them. And they don't, doesn't have to be big things, but just getting those little things in there, especially if you're somebody that doesn't ever take any time for yourself. Maybe it's, spending 5 minutes outside with a cup of coffee, just in peace and quiet before everybody's awake, or with a cup of tea after everybody's in bed. But just those little things and figure out how to get those into your days
Yeah.
regularly.
I love that. I love being outside with my cup of coffee. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will be doing that one. Now, where can the listeners find you?
So on my website, it's Jenny Lytle, JennyLytle.com. And you can see all the stuff there. And I'm also on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram is Jenny Lytle RN. I'm really not very active on there because it just takes more effort than I've got to make everything super pretty. I'm not super polished, but mainly I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. And my email is Jenny Lytle at jennylytle.com as well. So, but if you can't remember all that, go to selfcareisn'tselfish.com. You can get a copy of my digital book, and it is called Self Care Isn't Selfish: The Compassionate Nurse's Step by Step Guide to Personalized Self Care. And it's available on Amazon in audiobook and hardback and paperback and Kindle. But yeah, if you just want a digital copy, you can grab that for free on my website.
That's so great that you offer a free version of it. So that's amazing.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you.
And also tell us what else you offer.
Yeah, so I do one-on-one coaching. Sometimes I do some group coaching. Right now I don't have any groups going on per se, but I do have a new online community it's just in its infancy right now. So it's something that's kind of being co-created, and it's called the Nurses Break Room. And it's just a place, it's kind of like social media without the drama of social media and distraction of social media. So the point of it is to be able to come together, be encouraged, be able to grow and learn together and figure out, practical, simple self-care things to incorporate in our day-to-day lives. And so there is a free 14-day trial on there, and right now it's $11 a month for people who do continue after that.
Awesome. And well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's always fun to discuss self-care and get new perspectives. And you just had a lot of fun energy. So this was really fun for me.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you want to learn more about Jenny or grab that free download of her Self-Care Isn't Selfish book, just click on the link in the show notes. And until next week, keep carving out time for yourself and keep putting yourself on top of your to-do list.